And perfect. We are live, and it's a beautiful, beautiful sunny day, at least here in Finland. How it is there, Jonathan?
It's exactly the same. In fact, it's really warmed up the last couple of days because it has been like sunny, but like biting cold because of the wind. So, but that's gone today, and it's really quite balmy out there. So, very pleasant day here in Cardiff, the capital of Wales. Yes.
Perfect, perfect. And when we start having people joining us on the line, let's ask also from where they are joining, because the last webinar we had people from Germany, from Denmark, from Norway. Then of course UK was very well presented. Um, some from Sweden, some from Finland. So let's see how varied of an audience we're going to get today. And oh,
Sweden.
first
Hello,
one,
Sweden.
Sweden and Denmark right after Sweden. Beautiful. So welcome everyone. As we see more people joining us here, please drop a comment uh, where you're located. We love to know. Sweden, Denmark, Netherlands. Beautiful. Still, Jonathan, it looks like you are currently representing the UK.
Yeah, well, I hope to get a few more representatives from the UK. We'd love to know if anybody's here from Wales as well. So, Edinburgh, there we
And
go,
there we are.
Scotland. So, welcome everybody.
Perfect. Let's give people a minute to join, since it's just
Can we spare
one
them a
minute.
minute, Jemmy? Because we've got an awful lot to get through today, haven't we? It's going to be intense.
It's gonna be intense, but
Lots.
hello also to Newcastle.
Hi, Newcastle. Lots of value to deliver today, though. So looking forward to it.
Yes, definitely. And it's gonna be a blast. And I can tell, like, when I was putting up and together the slides also from the material that Jonathan provided me with, I was like making notes, like I need to do something with this information as well. So 100% a lot of things for everyone to learn, I'm sure.
That's a good sign.
I would say so, yes. Perfect. Maybe one more minute and then we are gonna get into the thick of it. But it do be like this, people join when they are able, and most likely maybe every one of us has noticed during the past 2 years at least, um, that when we went more online with all the meetings have more tendency to go overtime. Am I alone with this sentiment?
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Yeah, yeah. But I hear you're going to keep us to time today, Jemmy.
Definitely. And we have an hour.
Yep,
Currently, we have 58 minutes.
yep.
So I'm gonna be strict with the timing. We value everyone's time, both yours, Jonathan, and every a gorgeous person we have joining us today. So I think we can slowly start getting to the action. And maybe we can now start first with introductions. So, Jonathan, I'm very happy to have you here. Can you please tell the audience, who are you?
Good question. Great to be here. Thank you, Jemmy. So I'm Jonathan Pollinger. I'm a social media trainer and been involved with social media for coming up for 13 years now. So kind of right in at the start, really, when it was beginning to become a thing for business, and saw an opportunity there. I just really like connecting people. And so in the context of my role, it's really connecting businesses and organizations, because I work with charities and a bit with local government and other organizations as well, connecting them with their audience. And that's kind of a bit related to what we're talking about today, because we're looking at getting traffic from social media to the website, which is quite an important part of that. So yeah, excited to be here and looking forward to it.
Perfect. And also, warm welcome from my side as well. I'm Yemi from Lido Marketing Technologies. I'm our marketing operations director. I refer to myself more as a janitor because if there's something that needs to be fixed, I'll be probably the first to fix it. So that's my gig. Um, but maybe we can really quickly look into the agenda for today and then move onwards. As an information for the audience there, you are able to download the document and like the presentation we are going to show you today. And I encourage everyone to do it because it's a lot of stuff. It's 30 plus slides. So probably a lot of things and very practical things that you will want to actually go back to later on. So you are able to download this PDF on top of the chat. And during the webinar, we are going to be running some quick questionnaires to which you can easily reply just by clicking the answer button. And of course, we don't want to have this in a very like one-sided way. We can definitely keep this and we should keep this as a discussion. So please be very active in chat if you have questions, comments, anything. I will be picking those up and making sure that we are addressing you who have joined us today. So maybe now it's a good time to check in with the agenda for today. So we are gonna, of course, introductions, we got that. We're gonna go through strategies to drive traffic from socials and tactics to drive traffic, and then how to make that traffic convert. And of course, the audience questions. There were some questions that we got already during the sign up process, and we are going to address those questions in this section of the webinar. But if you have other questions coming up on your mind during the webinar, please don't hesitate a second to write it to the chat and we will then bring it up. So maybe we can crack on from here. Let's go. And in the webinar, you will still see our introductions, but strategies to drive traffic. Let's start with this one, optimizing profiles. Jonathan, how often you run into this with your clients? Is this something that your clients notice to be like, oh, oh, is this a thing?
Yeah, I think it's not really done enough. I think people kind of like set up their profiles initially, all sort of enthusiastic, and maybe they have a revamp from time to time when they're sort of prompted to buy a webinar like this, or maybe buy a trainer or a consultant. But by and large, some people's profiles, you know, they're really sort of like out of date in terms of the actual content on there. But of course, platforms are coming out with new features all the time, so some of those were going to flag up to you because you might not be aware. So they're very well worth populating as well. I mean, if we look at Facebook, sort of looking at profiles and pages here, there is the ability to add an unlimited number of web pages to your profile. So not just your website homepage, but you could actually direct people to specific pages if you want to. So that's well worth taking advantage to. The little bit of bio, there's not many characters there, but on the top of your profile, a lot of people don't actually use that space at all. But if you actually drop a link in there, that is an active link, which is really handy. So that's a good one to point to maybe a service like Linktree or your website. Also, under the About section, contact info, you've got information like social networks you can populate in, but we're talking about website today, so definitely put in your website and other pages, as I mentioned. That one's kind of like obvious. A less obvious one are the free text fields, because there's actually some fields that you can fill in with text under About and additional information. And those also, most of them at least, they do support, again, active links. So most people don't take advantage of that. We're onto Pages now, so looking at Pages, so it's definitely well worth putting in links there, just even if it's just to say for further information. Another one that people miss is putting in a description to the cover photo on your page. And it's kind of like called the profile, but that's where everyone puts their logo. So put in a description there, but once again, active link if you put in a hyperlink there. And not only are people going to see that when if probably fairly unlikely, but if they do happen to click on the cover photo or the logo, then they're going to see that. But more beneficial is the fact that every time you change your cover photo, another good reason for updating your page, is that actually goes out as a post on your page, so it like sits there for everyone to see. So if you've got a link there, that can encourage a bit of traffic over to your website. Couple of things you can do on Instagram. So there's just the standard sort of field there for adding in your website link, and services like Linktree are pretty good. Although it's literally just been kind of reported, not confirmed by Instagram, that they're sort of working on a Linktree equivalent. So that's really exciting news if you can put a whole bunch of links on your profile, which looks like it's going to be the case. Not going to be launched immediately, I don't think. And like I say, not confirmed by Instagram, but quite a bit of evidence out there showing that it is something that they're looking at. What you can actually do right now is if you've got a third-party booking service, so if you're a business that takes appointments, for example, like maybe hairdresser, beauty salon, restaurant, that sort of thing, you can hook up your booking service to Instagram and put a nice shiny book now button on that, which is kind of cool.
Amazing. It's a lot of stuff already, and we just got started. So, of course, we are not only going to focus on Facebook and Instagram. So, we have two other social channels to address with profile optimization, and nearly as exhaustive list as the previous one.
Yeah, so here we're looking at sort of perhaps more B2B type businesses using LinkedIn and Twitter. And this is a sort of classic one on LinkedIn. I would say that probably about 90, this is a bit of a guesstimate, but definitely 90% plus, possibly even way higher than that, people only put in a company page link on their contact info, but actually you can put in 3 links there. So you could take the opportunity to put in 3 separate links to 3 separate web pages. And a nice sort of hack for you, if you select other rather than company page, which again 90% plus people just have company page, select other there and you can write in whatever you want. So you can just create your own label. So you could put in, say, something like sign up to our newsletter and link to your newsletter page, or register for our webinars, or read our blog, or whatever. All 3 of those, because you've got an opportunity to do that 3 times over. So that's quite a solid one there for LinkedIn to help you drive a bit of traffic. Also, there's a fairly new section called Featured on your profile. So you can put website pages, as many as you want, on there. That's going to help because they're highlighted on your profile. And on the page, so company pages now for your company, business, or organization, fairly standard stuff, but there's like a website button that you want to make sure that you've completed and added there. And on the page itself, on the probably in the About section is best. And when you're making posts, you can put website links in there as well. Twitter, not really much you can do on Twitter, I'm afraid, but you can just put in the standard website link. Just make sure you do that. Surprising, actually, people do actually miss that one off. So make sure that that's populated. And one that you might not know is, again, active link, the bio. So that little bit of area there where you can put in a description, the bio does support active links. So you could put in another website link there.
And that is a lot of stuff already with this one. I asked the audience, when have you optimized your profile the last time? And 6 to 7% say within Q1. So relatively recently.
Oh, we've actually got some people that are on the ball then with regard to profile optimization today. Good to know. Good to know.
Definitely. Because I started thinking when we have done it, and by my hand, it definitely hasn't been Q1. So I will take an action point for myself about this.
Nice.
But going forward, uh, we can discuss about like, okay, now profiles are more or less intact. What happens then? What can be done then? And I found this extremely interesting, somewhat maybe self-evident, but interesting nonetheless. Engaging the audience with valuable content, probably something that everyone is trying to do, and maybe not always being as successful as they would hope. So, can you please enlighten us?
Yeah, sure. So moving on from the sort of strategic idea of getting your presence, if you like, on social media sorted, so that's your profile or page, to what you're actually publishing. So we're talking about content now. So I think the key word here is valuable content. Whatever you're doing, and all of these suggestions here, they all provide value. So that's really like the key focus. Don't want to be shouting about yourself all the time, a little bit some of the time, and even when you are talking about yourself, you want to try and put some value in there. So value and valuable are the key sort of words here. And also, although it's in brackets, the and promise more is quite significant here in the context of today, because if you kind of like hint that there is more on your website, so you deliver a bit of value on social, but then hint there is more to come on the website, then what's that going to do? That's going to encourage people to visit your website to learn more and to find more value. So that's quite an important part of this. So actual things that you can do then. So everybody's got a USP, that's a wider sort of like marketing point, but what is it about your product or service that makes you different from the competition? And really sort of like hammer that, because sometimes when you're working in a company, you almost like take that for granted, but other people out there, they're not going to know that. So regularly kind of like repeat that. What is it about you that makes you stand out? And presumably that is going to actually help your clients, because it's something that you're doing a little bit different. Show off your expertise. So as well as just sort of saying you're great, what I mean by showing off there is using things like testimonials. Video testimonials are particularly good. If you've got like case studies, white papers, that kind of thing, all of that is good sort of material to demonstrate your expertise. Topical discussions. So this is particularly good one for Twitter. So where people are talking about the subject of the day, if you like, things that are current, things that I usually refer to it as they actually have a lot of currency, so they have a lot of value at any particular point in time. So this can be things like industry news, could be legal changes around your business, that kind of thing. So if you've got a viewpoint on that, then it's quite good to get that viewpoint out there and see what other people say, or maybe just like ask the question and see what other people think about a particular bit of news. Statistics, stories are always good, kind of like related to the previous point, but if you can back that up with some report or research that's come out and highlight that, people really do like stats, so that can be a good starting point for a post. Always worth celebrating any awards and achievements. People love this type of content, particularly if you back it up with photos of your team who perhaps have won an award or celebrating a long service award or something like that. and then that kind of like crosses the boundary into their friends and their personal life as well, and you can get quite a lot of traction on social for that. And of course, if all the information about that is on your website, then that can help people learn more about you and your organization. One that people kind of like perhaps again underplay a little bit is story of your day. You might take it for granted, but other people will probably actually find that interesting. You could be surprised there. And if you're doing something a little bit out of the ordinary, like maybe going to conference or traveling or seeing an unusual client or a big client or something like that, then just document that and talk about your day. That can work in terms of content. Calendar days is an old sort of like classic, but with calendar days, do make sure that you link into relevant ones. Just keep it top, not so much, yeah, keep it topical because they're calendar days, but also keep it relevant. That's the key word there. Good one for LinkedIn is stuff that you've learned over time, really, both business and life lessons. And if you can back that up with anecdotes and stories, that can work really well. And finally, if you're really stuck, then resharing other people's content, if it's valuable, is good. And you can always add a bit of value to that by putting in your own sort of spin on it or your own sort of insights to that bit of content that you've actually shared.
So actually, we do have, and companies in general would have a lot of things to actually share about. Maybe we are a little bit blind to this. We are decided
Yes.
to be a little blind, maybe a hesitant. Is this relevant? Would this be even of interest? What our target audience would think about this? So maybe like as an immediate action point for everyone now on the line and later when people are going to watch the recording, um, start with one of these and create a post immediately after you watch this
Good
and
advice. Yeah.
get the ball rolling. Like, no need to get stuck with something like this. Um, Next one, we can go through it really, really, really quickly. So, part publishing long form content. And this is now highlighting Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter maybe being like the easiest channels to do this.
Yeah, you're right. This is just a quick one, really, and it just sort of takes care of the brackets from the last slide. So this is where you can encourage people onto your website by part sort of publishing a little bit. So on LinkedIn, you can use articles, maybe publish half the article and then link to the website, or even like the first couple of paragraphs. Facebook, you can do that with a post. That's like a tried and trusted tactic of just putting in a little bit of content there and then putting like see more or a call to action like that, or learn more so that people can discover more. And perhaps a less known one is Twitter threads. So you can actually chain tweets together to produce a bit of a long form content. And I think that's a feature of Twitter that could actually be used a lot more. Really handy way of getting quite a bit of content out there. And of course, why not in that very last tweet part of that chain, link to your website to get some traffic there?
Yeah, 100%. There's actually a question to you. What's your opinion regarding more dreamy, like lifestyle photos, for example, on Instagram?
Yeah, well, that's a very cool question. I think it probably depends on your business to a large extent. I mean, first of all, from the engagement point of view, whatever your business is, that's going to work. But then, engagement isn't going to really mean a lot unless people are going to take action as a result of that, or you're going to improve your relationship with them a little bit. So perhaps not the dreamy, but I think actually photos of you, if you're whether you're a freelancer or a company director or a member of a team, that can actually be quite strong, and definitely team photos and employee photos as well, particularly if you're doing something like having a team day out, or you're all at an event or something like that. So perhaps not so much the dreamy, but unless it's kind of like, I don't know, you're in the fashion business or something like that, or jewelry maybe, but which are good businesses for Instagram. But yeah, definitely people photos. You want to be doing that for sure.
and probably like still encouraging that the not every single picture needs to look like it's been taken by an award winning photographer. People
Correct.
like people and humans like humans, so
Yeah.
it's maybe lessen the barrier also to post the people pictures.
Yeah.
There's a new poll open. What is the channel you use the most for your business? I was not able to put any more options, so you are stuck with Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit, Quora, and TikTok to choose from. Um, Quickly going back to the presentation, we have uh, another fairly quick step to check in how to use social for customer services. So maybe Facebook and Twitter are also something that most people are very, very familiar with. At least I have used both channels for customer service purposes as a client.
Yeah, just as it's a big subject, but in terms of I think driving traffic, it's quite a quick one. This so the point here is that if you are using social to look after your customers and to answer questions, provide advice, then of course there is always that more information kind of like thing. So do take that opportunity to link back to the website. And you can automate that to a degree on Facebook. If you look under settings and messages and messaging, there's some autoresponders you can set up there. And Twitter, unless you've got sort of some sort of third-party CRM type integration, it's pretty sort of manual and straightforward. You can just drop links into the DMs when you're replying to people and answering their queries.
Perfect. And then to a very, very, very intriguing topic when considering that maybe like social media isn't only for the marketing team or the marketing specialist or the social media manager. Thinking about the distribution culture in the company.
Yeah, you're right. It's an absolutely fascinating one, this one. And I think it's one that can give you a lot of leverage, particularly if you've got a few employees. If they get behind you, then just as Yemi was saying there, it's like they're almost becoming an extension of your marketing department, even though they're not marketing. So it's great to try and get them to chip in and get involved with your content. So specifically, a few ideas around that. So on Facebook, it's not going to be appropriate all the time, and it is going to depend on the nature of your business, but definitely worth getting people to share to their profile and stories when it is appropriate. Now, it's a nice, quick thing to do. And not everyone's going to want to cross that line, and like I say, it depends on the business to a certain extent as well, but in some cases that can work really, really nicely. Instagram, you can get people to share posts to your stories. It's probably more likely that people are going to do that, especially if they're really invested in your brand. LinkedIn, quite a clever one where you can notify employees when you've put a post up. So you can click the option there. It's like the standard sort of three dots menu above a post, and they just get a notification. You want to kind of like, we're coming on to this point, the sort of culture of getting people to do this. But once people understand what to do, once they get that notification, it's just like a handy reminder there. And on Twitter, it's just basic retweeting, isn't it? But once again, if they're invested and they're proud employees, they are very likely to want to do that. And then the big question and the interesting one is how do you actually get people to do this? Incentivize them? Is it kind of like a formal distribution center? Are there some guidelines? So I think again, it's a tough one. This talk about it a lot, but just in brief, I think it is worth considering. You can't just like ask people to do this stuff and start doing this stuff. So this slide, although there's just a few points on it, it is actually quite a big bit of work. But I would say, broadly speaking, you want to try and show people the benefits, what's in it for them of sharing. And a lot of the time, it's because it's going to boost their personal brand, if you like. It's going to make them almost experts by virtue of working for you and by sharing the right sort of content. So there's definitely some profile awareness in it for them. And also, I think it's very important to be clear in terms of what they've actually got to do. So two sort of steps to it: give them a reason to do it, and try and make it clear what they have to do, and then regular reminders, whether there's sort of like an incentive there or not. Uh, you do want to sort of like just regularly tell them, instruct people what to do. They're your employees at the end of the day, and they're probably in most cases going to be willing to help out. But I expect you might have some thoughts on this yourself, Yemi. It's quite an interesting one, as you say.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm maybe like how I would approach this, uh, if you know what is the like most important channel for your business, maybe start with this, like encourage people being active in that media if they are there, if they use it. Instagram can be very personal for very many. So if you're a B2B business, or a decision maker, maybe LinkedIn might be better, and maybe a lower threshold to share, for example, the company posts or create your own personal brand at that and within that platform. Um, but this ties into interestingly to the like the next topic, and like Per has a question which slightly also relates to this one. So if we cover first the social ads, and then we
Yeah,
can move on to the question.
yeah, good timing for that question. So yeah, social ads. I mean, strategically, if you can target people that are going to be interested in your product and service, and you give them a nice button and a link for them to click, then there's going to be a fair chance that they're going to do that. So if we're looking at the different platforms, then so Facebook, you want to be looking at what they call traffic and conversion ads. So we're actually using the platform's terminology here. The only difference between those two on Facebook is that conversion ads have got extra metrics and measurement. Not really any time to go into it today, but we're talking about the Facebook pixel here, just to give you that extra detail, if you like, and metrics that provides. LinkedIn, they call them website visits, the type of ad that you're going to want there if you're looking to drive traffic. And Twitter, the terminology on Twitter is website traffic ads. So yeah, the bit that links into interesting question: could you mention good examples of converting CDA? So it's I think it depends a lot on what you're trying to do. Generally, I think you want to be quite strong, so you want to have call to actions like book now, for example, or even buy now. I think if you're e-commerce business, then, or your event space for the former, for the book now, that'll work. Buy now for e-commerce. I think if you're a bit more service and consultant kind of like based advisory, then probably things like learn more are a bit better. Uh, but I think the golden rule really is kind of like just test this. It's difficult to come up with an answer of what CTA is going to work, but just sort of maybe start off with the strong ones, and if they're not working, then perhaps make them a bit softer. Definitely worth experimenting, because there is a whole sort of range there, isn't it? Because you could sort of like have something like, say, if you're talking about a newsletter, for example, you could just keep it nice and simple and go for sign up. But something like join my list, or even would you like to join my list, is a much sort of softer way of going. So I think it's just worth experimenting along that spectrum and seeing what works best.
Testing and knowing your audience and keeping up with the context. It, if the CTA isn't contextual enough, it might be also a very non-converting call to action at that point. Um, while we are talking about the testing and stuff, it comes down to measuring. So this is something that at least I've seen with a lot of companies in a lot of different instances, that we like take a fall here, and it's the measuring and improvement part. Of course, this might be very time consuming. There might not be resources enough for this, or we don't know where to start. But Jonathan, you put down very channel specific things to check. So if you can quickly walk us through the language and the things to follow up within each
Yep.
channel, and then we get to the tactics, which is very, very hands on.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, just mentioning testing just now, this is like the follow up really, because if you're testing, then you've got to measure to know what's working and what isn't. And whilst it's just like two words together, measure and improve, I think this is absolutely crucial. You've got to take action as a result of your measurement. So what we've got here are specific terms, terminology, language that each of the platform uses, and this is really what to look for. So on a general basis, you can use Google Analytics to see where your traffic is coming in from. You can actually set up a nice little custom dashboard in there. If you want a sort of quick and easy way to do that, do get in touch with me afterwards, and I can send you like a macro that'll do that for you. But that can be really handy, where you've got graphs and information just in one view, looking at what platforms are driving your traffic. In terms of Facebook, then Facebook's measurement tool is Insights, and then you want to go to posts. And if we're looking at traffic, it's post clicks that is the primary measure there. LinkedIn, there's a couple of things. So on LinkedIn, if you look at, oh, by the way, this is for on Facebook, that was both for paid and organic, so for ads and regular posts. LinkedIn, it's sort of split. So for your company page, if you go to analytics, then updates, you can look at clicks and CTR. But if you're looking at LinkedIn ads, it's in the campaign manager, as they call it. And then if you go to columns, performance, and then you can look at clicks and average CTR being click-through rate. On Facebook and Instagram for the ads, so on the insights, you can actually see the split between paid and organic, but it's not that specific. So to drill down with that, if you go into Ad Manager, you can go to columns. It's not default. You might not have even noticed this before, but if you click on the little columns drop down at the top, there's a whole raft of different types of measures you can pull up, and one of those is performance and clicks. And on Twitter, if you go to analytics, tweets, and then link clicks, that'll give you the best that Twitter will do. Unfortunately, it doesn't provide any CTR, but it's at least it's giving you some link clicks there.
So it's already quite a few data points here that you can fairly easily track. And there are softwares that also bring all this data to one dashboard. You are able to easily access it, at least with relative ease, I would say. But if we continue to tactics to drive traffic, now we covered strategies, we covered measuring, we have covered a whole awful lot already. And now there's a poll asking, do you effectively measure your social media performance? So I'm very eager to also see the results, how people feel about this. Let's go through, of course, we have like first like master slide for this, and then we are channel specific. So let's start with something that can work for all channels. So
Yeah. So sorry.
go on,
So
please tell us.
we're looking at all channels here. I'm talking over you, Yemi, because I'm really keen to get on with this bit, because there's some good stuff in here, and hopefully I'll be able to tell you something that you're not already aware of. Give you some really good actionable tips in this section. So first of all, for all channels, catchy headlines are important. You want to basically catch people's eye there. So using emojis can help do that as well. There's this fairly recent expression, stop the scroll. So visual content can definitely help you do that. We've talked about calls to action and making them clear. Hashtags really important in all of this to help people discover your content. And then the actual get people to your website bit, of course, you do need that link at the bottom. Make sure that there's a line space at the bottom of your post before dropping in that link. And it can actually help to have like a hand pointing emoji or an arrow or something like that to point to the link as well.
I would be curious to know from the audience, how many of these are you already covering? And we can meanwhile move to channel specific. So we are going to cover the same channels as we have been talking already. So Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and LinkedIn. Um, so Hannah, I will pick up your question soon. Let's go first through now the tactics, and then we can come back to measuring a little bit more. So, Jonathan, Facebook.
Yeah, so pinning a post is really good tactic, particularly on Facebook. So this sticks the post at the top of your page, makes it more prominent, highlights it, stays there until it's either replaced with another one or you unpin it. So if you've got a link on that, that can be valuable. This one is really good. Not a lot of people know this one. So you can actually add links to Facebook page stories. So this is kind of like Yemi was saying, like, go away and do some of this stuff straight away. This is one that you can do this afternoon. So set up an image post and add a link to it on your Facebook page stories. And that can be quite an effective way to drive traffic. And of course, you can measure it as well. Facebook group is quite a good way to go. We've talked about pages and profiles, so set up a bit of a community there. Big topic that, but another way of driving traffic. And talking of groups, post links in Facebook groups, but do be a bit careful there. You don't want to be all spammy and just joining groups for the sake of doing that. But if you've got some value to add, so say, for example, you're answering a question and there's more information on your website, then of course it's helpful to include a link there.
And going on to Instagram, if you were to highlight two key points from here, what would be the things that you would want to see people doing immediately after this webinar?
Definitely the first one. So link stickers, relatively new feature on stories. So fantastic that everyone's now got access to this. Previously, it was the old swipe up to visit the website system, and that was only available to people who had more than 10,000 followers and curators and stuff like that, or celebs. So great that that is available to all, or pretty much nearly all people. So I would go away and do that. Of course, if you're shopping, this only applies to e-commerce, but you can add product tags as well. Very, not very, but should we say definitely probably not the majority of businesses are using stories highlights. So if you're combining the link stickers approach with highlights, that can help get you a bit of extra traffic there. The classic link in bio, adding that to your post, probably aware of that one, but it still works to this day. And finally, don't be shy if it's appropriate to put links in your DMs.
That's perfect. And for LinkedIn, the list is a little bit shorter, but relatively self-explanatory, and it makes a lot of sense. For example, to pin a post to top of the LinkedIn page.
Yeah, same principle as Facebook, but definitely worthwhile doing. One that you might not know or not even thought about doing is that when you ping over an invitation to connect to somebody, you can actually add in a link to your website there. Previously, that used to be inactive. But LinkedIn kind of on the quiet have switched that back on. So hyperlinks are active if you include them in that note. You've got very few characters to work with, but you can use that. And again, really similar to Facebook, post some links in groups, but don't be spammy about it.
And last but definitely and not least, Twitter.
So yeah, on Twitter, you can pin tweets once again. The key point I want to make with Twitter, which you might not be aware of, is brilliant feature called website cards. So these allow you to sort of put in a fully fledged button with obviously a link through to your website and an image on there as well. So you can actually do this through Ad Manager, but you don't have to set up a paid campaign. So obviously you can do it with a paid campaign if you want, which can have its benefits, but you can do it for free, but you do need an ad account to do it. So it's another one for giving you a lot of work to do this afternoon, but there's another one you can do this afternoon. So get a button. How cool is that to have a button on your tweets with a nice image and a label on there as well? So nice and clear call to action to get people to visit your website. Another one which can be quite effective is if you set a notification to be alerted when high-profile accounts or high-profile people tweet. If you can be the first person to dive in there and comment, that can be quite good. I think it's a bit spammy if you add a link at that point. However, just by commenting, people can then visit your profile, because you're really going to be quite obvious there, and quite often the media are going to pick up those tweets and people are going to embed them, so you might get some traffic to your profile that way.
That's true. Hannah had a question that how you can effectively measure social media performance and have a hard KPI that can be linked to revenue. I think this is a very it's a very good question, but in this case and in this instance might be also quite specific. So Jonathan, would you be happy, for example, to take this offline with
Yeah. I'll come
Hannah?
back to you on that one. We can park that one for sure. Yeah.
So also then you're able to really dive deep to Hannah's specific case. It will probably be more helpful.
Sure.
But now that we know how to get the traffic to your website, what to do with that, there's a few things that need to happen in a way that we can actually link it to revenue somehow on a very general level. So how to make the traffic convert, and strictly discussing about the website conversions here. So of course, clarity is it's key. It's something that needs to be there. It's something that the experience needs to stay consistent. When they land on your website, is it clear what they can and should do next? And especially the latter part, the should do next, is oftentimes a little hazy and might not make sense for the customer journey. The second point to keep in mind is relevancy. This goes for your social posts, this goes to your audience, this goes to copy, images, all of this good stuff. And it continues when the customer journey continues from the socials to your website. Is the content relevant on the page where they're landing? Does it make sense? Does it actually provide additional value? Does it deliver what it promises? Is it relevant in this context? Then another key to add here would be alignment and expectation management. So, of course, a little doubling down on what I just said, being relevant is, of course, being very aligned and managing the expectations. Are the expectations that we have set on socials being met when someone lands on your website? Very often we have beautiful illustrations, we have beautiful, very witty posts, we have a lot of stuff going on in our social channels. And then you land on a website which is static. It has been updated last time 3 years ago and is in no shape or form relevant for the person landing there. So making sure that all these bits actually are taken into account, considering your messaging on socials and considering your messaging throughout your website, because it's one customer journey. It's not separate customer journeys on social and separate on the website. It's one. And this is like a pothole you will drive into if these things are not considered.
Can I just jump in with a point there? Just to say that also the platforms, effectively, well, they've got like unlimited budget and resources, haven't they, to absolutely work and look the best from a user experience point of view. So people's expectations when they go from Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever to your website, they're kind of like high because the benchmark is really high. So just to kind of like reinforce the point you're making there about the messaging and the content, it's that, but it's also like the actual whole interface and experience as well. So it's a tough job, isn't it? Because you do need a really good website these days.
Yeah, that. It's a very, very, very good and much needed point. Um, Hopping to the next one. I'm very into keys, it seems. But conversion points in this sense are the master keys. So considering someone lands on your website, do you have enough and relevant conversion points there? Are you able to convert your visitors in a way that fits your individual needs and the user journeys, and not in a way that would suit you the best? Because so very often websites are only about the company and very little about the customer, and it should be the other way around. Same when
Correct.
it comes to conversion points. It's like if you will make the book a demo button bigger, it will change nothing, exactly nothing, if it doesn't fit your customer's journey. So this is something to take into account. Do you have enough conversion points? Not just hard ones, but soft ones as well. And are they relevant? So, do you know your audience well enough? Do you have data about your audience to tailor made make these conversion points to your website? Everything really beautifully ties in together. And as the last point here, um, continuing with the key theme, insights to your audience and the conversions are eventually locksmith who can seriously go anywhere they want. Because if you don't know which channels work the best, which channels bring the first visit, which channels bring them back, like nurturing channels, and which channels play the biggest part when converting them, it might be really difficult to optimize for this. And being able to measure these things effectively is crucial when trying to tie all of these different channels and all of these different bits and bobs together. And for example, to point your board of directors that this is how much we contributed to revenue from this channel. We know this works, and this is why we need more budget, for example. So this is this is a big thing that very often, as we covered, gets a little dismissed in a way. And oftentimes it's because it's, as Hannah said, there are limitations to what you can do, technical limitations, legal limitations, or resource limitations. We don't know what tools to use, or we don't have time to, or knowledge, know how to effectively measure. It happens. But that's why I would say people like you and myself, Jonathan, we're here. We are
Yeah,
here to make sense out of this.
exactly.
Um, we it looks like we're gonna be very well on time. We just need to be uh, powering through the audience questions, and I think this is a juicy bit. So I hope if we go 2 minutes over time, um, we're gonna manage. And if someone in the audience needs to jump out um, when it's when it's time, it's fine. You will get the recording still today, so then you can come back and watch the rest of the webinar. So let's go. First one, and it's a two-parter. Um, can the tips given be used around all different industries?
In a word, yes. I think some things you've got to tailor for particular industries. So I think I dropped that in a couple of times during the session actually. So if you're e-commerce and you're actually selling products online, perhaps it's a bit more specific, a bit more direct, your overall approach. Whereas if you're services, consultancy, like PR, marketing, accountancy, software provision, that kind of thing, then a little bit softer, a little bit different. In terms of best practices, well, hopefully we've given you a few today, but a couple of other ideas for you. Definitely have a look at the competition. Probably got a rough idea of who they are. And there's a couple of specific things you can do related to that. So Facebook, on your Facebook page, you can actually sort of put in some competitors' pages and get some insights around that. That's on the overview, or maybe it's called general section of insights on your Facebook page. It's the first page you come to in insights anyway. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can add in some competitors there. And another really good one is the Facebook ads library. So if your competitors are running ads, you can actually check out their ads and see what they're doing. So whilst you're probably not going to know exactly whether the ads are working or not, at least it's going to give you a sense of what they're doing and what they're up to, and so you might get a bit of inspiration and best practice there.
Definitely. Going forward, oh, I love this question so much. How much should we tailor our content to each social media platform?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of considerations here. So first of all, it's the audience. So if you've got, and you probably have, different audiences on the different platforms, then as we said before, it's all about delivering value to your audience. So you've got to tailor in that respect, like asking yourself the question, or maybe asking them if you don't know the answer, as to, what are they going to find useful? What are they going to want their problem solving? Are they going to want more information about a particular topic? Do they want to be kept in the know? Whatever it is that you can do for them. And then the other aspect is kind of a bit more technical, perhaps, is sort of feature led. So every platform is different technically. We pointed out a few specific tactics today. So just off the top of my head then, so like, Instagram hashtags are way more important than Facebook, for example. So your content's got to be tailored in that respect, according to the ins and outs and the features that each platform have got.
Perfect. So eventually it boils down to the audience, the audience's intent, the use of the channel.
Yeah.
So most likely pushing the same content, the exact same versions of the content in like everywhere could do better if it was a little bit more tailored.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think sometimes the content perhaps should be almost like quite different, but there are exceptions. Like if it was like a webinar you're promoting or getting people to sign up your newsletter, then you probably want all your audiences to do that. So just as you were saying, that would be get the same message out, but tailor it for the platform.
Yes. Going forward to the next question. Uh, So, as a quick recap, I don't like to do demos on on the webinars. This is not the time or place. But this question actually relates to the interactive bit you, all of you here, uh, signed up for. So it's a Lido product, and it's one of many products that we have. And we start from 599 a month. And if you want to discuss this further, I'm happy to ping me an email, discuss with the bot, whichever way would be the best suited version for you to continue with this. But I must say, the interactive bits do work very well. Um, but here, let's go forward with less demoing approach. What are the basic rules of thumb to promote business on social media? If you were to give like one grand rule for this.
One grand rule, then probably follow the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your content value, which I keep on going on about, and then 20% a bit more promo and salesy. But even the promo and salesy, try and make it engaging and interesting, and even if possible, throwing in some value in there as well. As I think both Yemi and I've tried to get across today, it's all about your client, really. Your audience, and not about you. So just bear that in mind. Yeah, I've probably given two there, but if I had to say, I think, how about put your audience first? How about that one?
That's it. That's a perfect one, I would say. Um, then how do we quantify and analyze how much traffic is streaming to my website from social media? And I think this comes back to Do you have the different analytics tools in place? Are you able to actually follow up with the traffic? I think people should definitely link up with you, Jonathan, after today's session, and you can share with them the templates, if you will,
Yep.
for Google Analytics
Yep.
to track the social media traffic. And this will give also insights on what, at least on the first touch point basis, where is the traffic essentially coming from.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered that in the section before, and you summed it up nicely there. I think maybe the only thing to add is, yes, you want to look at the breakdown of traffic across socials, but then also, of course, there's a bit of comparison with other traffic. So Google search, for example. So yeah, you just got to look at the whole picture, and we've pointed out the tools that you can use to do that.
Definitely. And this is the last question. Can a social media campaign be so robust in directing traffic to sites that it makes SEO a non-issue?
Well, I like to give direct answers, so no is the answer there. I mean, yeah, of course, SEO's got its place, hasn't it? So it's just part and parcel of the whole thing. I mean, some people would even include a lot of the stuff that we've covered today, even under the broad heading of SEO. Some people would consider just SEO that whatever you're doing to get traffic to the website. But I think the person who asked the question is specifically sort of talking about keywords and backlinks and that kind of thing, and the Google side of it, perhaps. But of course, that's an important. You can't, as I said before, when you're doing the measurement, you've got to look at where else your traffic is coming from. So even if, and it's unlikely it would be so small, but even if 10% or 5% of your traffic is coming from Google search, that kind of like makes SEO still relevant as well as the social stuff. It's going to be highly unlikely that you're getting 100% of your traffic from social. So only if that was the case would SEO be a non-issue.
And considering, like, if we are talking about uh, paid campaigns are usually used also for short-term benefits, whereas SEO is a long-term gain.
Yeah,
So
true.
not fully comparable together from that sense. And I can imagine that if I was to go to my CMO and say that, hey, I want to dismiss all the SEO efforts and just go with the campaigns, and I would need, I don't know, 8, 10 times the budget I have today. He would look at me and tell me to go home and get a rest because it seems that I have a fever.
I think you're probably right. Yeah.
So, but there's a time and place for definitely both
Yeah.
of these. And it's good to understand that one brings maybe quicker benefits and one is like the long game here. But it was the last question. And we are now closing this webinar. Would you like to leave people with one thought, or two if it comes out two? Uh, we have now given tasks during the webinar, like please do this directly after webinar. What would be one thought to go home with today from this session?
How about let's throw in the word consistency? I think you just got to be consistent with all of this. I think quite often after training or after a session like this, you can be all sort of like fired up and enthusiastic, which is great. And we do want you to go away this afternoon and implement as many of those tactics and maybe get started with the strategy as well. But to get the real benefits, you've got to be consistent with that. So example would be like the profile, for example. Yes, go away and use the opportunity now to optimize your profiles across all socials, but don't just leave it there. Come back next month and change your cover photo and update the information, see if there's anything new that you can do. We mentioned like Instagram maybe coming in with the ability to add a whole bunch of links to your profile, so you wouldn't want to miss out on that. So yeah, consistently follow the advice that we've passed on. You just got to be consistent in your actions to get the results.
Perfect. Consistency. So, with this in mind, I thank you, Jonathan, so much for
Welcome.
today's session.
Been fun.
And thank you, everyone who joined us today. If you didn't yet download the material, please do it now. You will get the recording also still today. And I hope we'll see you in the next events. And please feel free to connect with myself and Jonathan on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Cheers.